Why critical thinking makes you smarter. You're watching Making Sense with Robbie. Let's get started. You know any smart people who are really close-minded? They can't even imagine things that are different from what they see on the TV. You know dumb people who fall for all sorts of tricks? Do you know people who just watch the news and never question anything and don't have any doubts about what's being told or what's being said? Then you probably know lots of people who don't have any critical thinking skills. Critical thinking is the analysis of facts to come up with judgments. So rather than just jumping to a conclusion, rather than just coming up with a choice on the fly, critical thinking is about looking at the evidence, seeing where the evidence leads, and then making the best decision based on what the evidence says. For the most part, people just tend to trust the experts. They tend to just rely on other people to tell them how to think about things or what to do or what the right decision to make is. And they don't spend too much time thinking about it for themselves. And people do this because it's easy. It's easy to just let someone else tell you what to think or what to do and then going about and doing it. It's hard to sort of challenge that, to stop and say, I don't know, this doesn't make sense. I need to think about it some more. That is difficult to do, but that also is the key to critical thinking. In order to make good choices, you need to stop, you need to take the time to look at the evidence, you need to make a decision based on what the evidence says, not what someone else tells you. Especially when someone tells you, don't look at the evidence, just trust me, just do what I say. That's especially when critical thinking is important and necessary. First step in being a good critical thinker is getting past just believing what other people say. So a lot of times we might just hear someone say something and then just accept it as a fact, just accept it at its face value and use that sort of as our information to move on. But clearly that's mistaken, because anytime that someone tells you something, there's always potentially motivations for why they would tell you that. They have reasons for telling you it that aren't necessarily the most honest and sincere reasons. Once people get past sort of just believing what other people say, then they may start to think of things in sort of this binary oppositions way. And so you have a thesis and you have an antithesis. Let's say you have left and right, or you have progressive and conservative, or you have capitalism, communism. So that kind of creates an ideology in our perspective and our way of understanding things. So you might say, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to what this person is saying about who to vote for, but I'm going to choose this party because I kind of believe in this party. But this kind of thinking is limited because it's looking at something in sort of these two dimensions, in these two different ways, and opposed to thinking about it in a whole bunch of different ways that might potentially influence why things are the way that they are, or what you should do about a situation, or how you should make a decision. Once you get past believing what people say and you kind of move on to thinking of things in at least black and white, or as thinking of as left and right, then you can sort of step back and start looking at things in multiple dimensions, looking at things in all the different ways that are influencing it. It's not just left and right. There could be tons of different motivations. Maybe there's financial incentives, or there's ego incentives, or there's just personality incentives. Maybe someone's doing something for money, but maybe they're also doing something for pride or for appreciation or for status. And so all of these sort of factors matter. There's so many different factors that influence why someone might say things, or why they might believe things, or why they might behave one way over another. But the key is that there are so many dimensions, there are so many aspects to everything. And so it's important to think about all of those things. It's important to be considerate of all those possibilities. And so once you start considering all these different dimensions or all these different possibilities, then you can start thinking about motivations. So why would this person be motivated to saying this? So if someone's really positive about what some product or something, then maybe they're saying it because they're trying to sell it to you. But then at the same time, if someone's really negative about a product or a brand or a company, then maybe they're trying to sway you to choose the competitor, to go in a different direction. And so when something happens, it's not just one party or two parties acting. There might be different groups that have similar motivations, and so they're doing similar things, and that kind of causes a large sort of systematic move towards something, but they don't necessarily work together. They don't necessarily have the same end goals. They might have similar end goals. Maybe it's two different companies, both want to maximize profits, but one company has one product to sell and another company has a different product to sell, and maybe those are competing products. And so they're not necessarily working together, but their end goal is to sort of sell as much product as possible. And that could mean that those two parties, while not working together directly, have the same goal goal, have the same sort of outcome that they're looking for, and so it might appear that they're working together. It's important to be cognizant or to think about the different motivations, right? Like, why is this person doing this? Why is this organization doing this? Why is this government doing this? Like, why are those people even involved in this issue? And critical thinking makes you smarter because it kind of trains you. It enables you to think in complex ways about complex things. It enables you to realize different motivations, different sort of perspectives or ways of looking at something. And so oftentimes people think of things in very simplistic ways. If you watch the news at all and you see all this stuff, like you might see things about like Black Lives Matter, and obviously there's a race problem, but there's also other factors here. There's other factors other than just the police being racist. Like, it's not that simple. There are other things that are going on here. And if you don't realize, or if you can't think of the possibility that the issue is more complex than the simple story that's being told on the news or that's being presented to you, you're going to miss sort of the intricacies of the argument or the intricacies of what's happening and making sense of what's happening and why it's happening. So if we rely on the simplistic explanations that are presented to us, then we're going to have like simplistic understanding or a complete lack of understanding of things. And while it can be okay to have a simplistic understanding about things that don't matter, when things do matter, it is important to know them well, to have a good understanding of them, because when something matters, you need to be able to make a good decision. You need to use your critical thinking skills to analyze the data, to look at it from different angles, to kind of understand something complex in a complex way, and so that you can make the best decision, so that you can make the most informed decision, and so that you can think smartly about things that matter. Like I said, it's okay to not understand if something doesn't matter, but like once it does matter, not understanding it becomes a problem. It becomes a liability, it becomes a risk, because you can't make a good decision when you don't understand. And like, there's different perspectives. Being smart is having the ability to think about multiple things, having the ability to sort of be reasonable and rational about looking at data, and then having an open mind is very important to being a good critical thinker. But like, if you're really smart but closed-minded, then you're not going to be able to come up with these different sort of possibilities, these different factors or aspects that contribute to sort of the main point or the main issue that you're trying to make sense of. Because if you're not open to possibilities, then like you only have a limited sort of tool set. You only have a limited possibilities about how to make sense of it. And maybe that's good when you need to be very practical about something. It's good to probably be closed-minded because you can just look at the tools you have and come up with a solution and fix it. Whereas like if you want to have like a real thorough understanding, you want to think about things in a novel way, you want to make sense of complex things, then it's good to have an open mind about it. On the other hand, like if someone's really open-minded, but they're not smart, then they're going to fall for lots of tricks. They're going to believe in lots of absurd things because they don't have the ability to think critically about what they're consuming. And so they might just believe it just because. Being smart doesn't necessitate a good thinker, a good critical thinker. In essence, too, this is like what makes you smart is your ability to think about things, your ability to consume different types of ideas and analyze them, make sense of them, and then use them to make better decisions going forward. And realistically, like the better you understand things, the better you will be at making decisions in complex situations. Being smart about making good choices, and you can do that if you have an open mind, but also if you use critical thinking skills. So that's my question for you. Like, are you a good critical thinker? Do you think critically about things? Do you analyze the data and try and make sense of it? Are you open-minded as well? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this entertaining or informative, click that like button because I'd really appreciate it. If you are curious about learning how to think about things but you don't want to be told what to think about them, then click that subscribe button because that's what I'm here for. You've been watching Making Sense with Robbie. Thanks for watching and we'll talk next time. Goodbye.